Hello there. Hello, everyone. It is Wednesday at 7 o'clock, which means it is time to start our energy update for the week. Oh, so I'm going to let a couple people get on here. Welcome, welcome. I'm going to shuffle these cards. We'll do a card pull here in a little while. Oh my God, my cards are jumping. I'm back. I'm here. Okay. All right. So, we all survived the eclipse, physically speaking, right? Oh my God, I am the sloppiest shuffler apparently at the moment. This is annoying. Hold on. Oh my God. Okay. You think I've never shuffled a deck of cards before? I've actually had kind of a crazy afternoon last bit at the shop. Tried to run a few errands between closing the store and then getting home. So I'm probably a little all over the place, and I apologize for that. But let us kind of dive in and let us talk about this eclipse that we just got through. There was a lot of kind of collective talk about what this eclipse meant as far as humans, as far as our society, as far as, what's going to happen. I mean, of course, depending, I guess, on like what you read and like where you get your news and where you get your updates. There was talk from everything of like, it's going to be the rapture. It was going to be, the end of all things. Major breakdowns with technology or the internet or whatever. There was a lot of talk of like worst case scenarios that could happen. But I think that regardless of kind of how people interpreted the energies that were coming in and then how that translated into like our human world, I've seen so many people saying like, okay, like, well, we made it, nothing happened, whatever. But there was still like a huge energetic gateway, a shift that happened with the eclipse, even if our society didn't break down, right? And the interesting thing about this eclipse cycle, this solar eclipse, notice my necklace is on backwards, is that when we look back at 2017, where there was a full eclipse, solar eclipse that crossed over the US. And like those of us in East Tennessee, I only had to drive 10 minutes to get into the path of totality. I said notality. That's funny. The path of totality. But this eclipse, like it wasn't, we had cloud cover here, but it wasn't a complete totality in East Tennessee, but through the major, swath of the middle of the US, yes, there was a whole path of totality. So looking at 2017, I think that was August 2017 that total solar eclipse happened. And then looking at now, April, total solar eclipse 2024. The 2017 eclipse kind of like opened a gateway or a portal. It was a kind of a starting of a shift. And then this eclipse kind of ended that shift or change. So for a few minutes, for a little bit, think about where you were at, not necessarily physically, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually, what you were going through in August 2017 when the first eclipse happened. And then now take that brief little inventory of where you are now, what's going on, what started then or got stirred up then, and then what are you on the other side of now, or what are you wrapping up now, right? So think about that for a second. I know for myself, without like divulging too much, like just personal stuff. Not that I don't mind to talk about it, but it's like I don't want to just like be like poor me or me. But there was a lot that I was putting into motion, other endings that I was going through, and kind of um, really kicking off some major energies in my life in August 2017. And seeing now, being on the other side of the solar eclipse, and seeing not only like how far I've come or whatever, but just still seeing even today reverberations of that chapter being done. That chapter being, you know, closed. The book's closed, right? I'm going to look over to the comments here for a second. Angela says, mentioned being zapped energetically on Monday, but then the next 2 days have been pretty awesome. So I will say too, that eclipse day, like I was excited. I was really looking forward to it, was feeling the shift leading up to the eclipse. I woke up the morning of the eclipse and I was like, something is off. Like my energy was flatlined. And, it was low energy, feeling like depressed, but there's another word too. I was just like, it was almost like being in the in between, almost like it's like almost like acceptance of this whole big eclipse cycle. But once the eclipse happened, and then the energy, like by Monday evening, I started feeling like a fog was lifting, and then Tuesday morning, I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna be okay," So, yes, definitely felt intense energies, but to me, it didn't feel like chaos. It just felt like this really, really, in a way, like a heavy weight, but then also just almost like flatline, like I don't even know what I feel right now. And to me, like in the few days of hindsight, now it's like, okay, that was almost kind of like the pause, or the period at the end of the sentence that says this is done, and then we have to kind of breathe and pause for a little bit, and then we're going to start something new. And as we know, though, like energies don't just stop and then start. There is an ebbing into, a flowing out of, and each one of us, feel those energies differently. Not because somebody's more evolved than the other or anything like that. It's just kind of how we're processing those energies ourselves, kind of like, how many other things are taking up space in our awareness and our energy fields, our life, all of that. So you still, if you're not feeling a resurgence of energy, you might still be kind of in that in between, or in that closing down of the chapter type energy. And that's okay. It might take a little longer for some people. Of course, there's probably other people that once the eclipse actually hit, if they were processing stuff that happened a few days before, like it's fine. Of course, the eclipse and the way that a solar eclipse is able to occur is it was a new moon as well, right? And as we talked about before, new moons are, it's the start of a new lunar cycle. But when the moon is actually exact and new, there is no moon in the sky. Visible. Sorry, it's not like it disappears, but we do not see even a tiny little bit of a crescent. It is, a dark moon, and that is really the pause before the new energy coming in, because it is a complete reset. It is the stillness, the emptiness, the total yin, divine feminine energy. It is being in that state of absolute stillness, receptivity, openness, so that, yes, new energy can come in, but it doesn't just like start with something there, right? It has to be open and receptive first. So I know felt that energy very strongly myself on Monday. So yeah. Um it to me, I think that um it will be interesting to see kind of how the energies kind of play out over this next week, the next couple of weeks leading up to the full moon that we have on Tuesday, the 23rd. Checking my calendar. And and the moon will be in Scorpio. It will be a full moon in Scorpio, exact at 7:49 p.m. On Tuesday, the 23rd. Now, I want to look at, I'll just use my calendar because they're handy to have. You know what's really weird about technology is that we are so used to the convenience of, hey Siri, don't stop. See, my phone's listening. It's like, yes. Or hey Alexa, right? And also remembering numbers or like someone's phone number or math, like I'll just get on my calculator, or whatever it is. But then we're so dependent on, I know I am. I'm not calling you all out and I'm not calling myself out, like, let me just look that up, let me just Google it, right? Um, when the next moon is, when this date is, blah, 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 which is, yes, convenient. The internet is a wealth of information, right? Hopefully it's accurate. But just imagine that, if your phone stopped working, you broke your phone, you dropped it in the sink or whatever, or the internet wasn't working, you know, um, and you wanted to figure out moon phases or astrological information or whatever. And of course, as we know, astrology is very, very mathematical. And it's all, formulas and degrees and calculations and all of that. So it can be very predictive. Like if you kind of have your starting point, you can really look at what's going to be going on in the sky months, years, whatever ahead. But in this scenario, let's say you just don't have access to your phone, or to the internet. Having a nice old-fashioned calendar is pretty handy, or like a farmer's almanac or a date book that has the moon phases and astrology stuff in it or whatever. So um yeah, they're handy to have. So maybe, if you don't have a calendar and you can't find one because it's April, you could look up something on the internet and then you could write it in like your journal or something and have kind of a log of important dates, right? So anyway, okay, preaching done. So let me see, because there's supposed to be, yes, thank you, calendar. Okay, there's another solar eclipse in October this year. Now, this will not be a solar eclipse. I don't believe that we will see in the US, but it happens. We're on Earth. There's the sun, there's the moon. We all feel the energies, right? So on October 2nd, there is another solar eclipse, and the solar eclipse will be 10 degrees of Libra. It will be in Libra. Okay, so why is this important? This is important because, again, like I was talking about in 2017, August 2017, there was that solar eclipse, total eclipse. Then we have this solar eclipse. There are always pairs, start and finish of the energy. And it's not like it's just one pattern. It's like there are overlapping patterns, right? So we have that eclipse start and end of that energetic cycle, a long cycle, right? From 2017 to 2024. Now, also this month, we had a lunar eclipse and then we had the solar eclipse. Eclipses always travel in pairs when it comes to solar and lunar in the same lunar cycle. Okay, so we say the same month, but it's like the moon month, I guess it could be, depending on where they fall, it could be split up between months, but it's within that lunation. So, of course, a lunar eclipse is going to be during the full moon. A solar eclipse is going to be during the new moon. Yes, yes. So anyway, so we have another solar eclipse, okay, in October on the 2nd, in Libra. And remember, we had a full moon eclipse this month in Libra. And then in its zodiac opposite, we had the solar eclipse in Aries. So there is definite significance to these energies and to these patterns and to these pairing of energies, and kind of how these patterns coincide and how they kind of weave the energies, among themselves. So yes, there are, if you looked at 2017, 2024 as like a book, or a series of books, right? All the things in your life that, themes, lessons, karmic stuff, whatever, that you were processing beginning, and we're wrapping that up now. But then even within the smaller, condensed version of this lunar eclipse earlier this month, and then the solar eclipse that we just had, right? So, um, well, and it's not this month, it's this lunation, because the full moon it was like March 25th or something, right? So, lunar month. So, yes, there is a repeating of themes and energies that are addressing, especially with Aries and Libra, divine feminine, divine masculine, Mars, Venus, relationships where we have where our place is in, like, where we file in the ranks, of importance. Also, um, what we are what we are willing to fight for, what is important for us to fight for, or when we choose our battles, we pick our battles and we aren't fighting, right? And so there are a lot of the things that have been wrapped up with this solar eclipse are going to be, in regards to big, long, stretching themes of that family order, birth order, hierarchy in groups, where you fit in, your relationships, longer term relationships that, are going through big major shifts or changes, or have been. And of course, first and foremost, your relationship with yourself, how, you value yourself, your values, but like what's really important for you, like what you want to stand up for, what you came here to learn and experience, what's important to you, your relationship with yourself first and foremost. And then that's how you, heal and process things. And sometimes we do that in relationships, with someone providing us a ample playground for learning things, for trying things on for size, for giving us uh, like a mirror, right? It's a mirror sometimes. Not all relationships are this way, but sometimes it's a mirror, to where we can really review the things that are truly going on within us, but we're seeing it in the external world and we're interacting with it, right? Um, so, yes. So, even though, and this is not like a warning or anything, but even though we've made it through this eclipse portal, of the spring, and we're kind of like, can take a breath, breathe out, kind of ride the energies and kind of slowly acclimate to what is on the other side of this eclipse portal. There's another one that is brewing and that is coming for the fall. And so it's not a warning. It's just saying, like, the energies that either need to be readdressed from, this eclipse portal, or new things, other things, a deeper layer or another layer that needs to be evaluated now that we've kind of closed this chapter out, and that's coming up in October. Okay. So, and I would say, so if there's a solar eclipse on the 2nd of October, I would guess, yeah. So in September on the 15th is the full moon, harvest moon, and lunar eclipse. Okay. So mid-September, to, the first week of October, there are probably going to be more shifts and changes. Yes, for sure. So, yeah. So any commentary, any questions, from y'all about what I've been talking about, or about kind of what's going on in your life? Open forum right now, live Q&A. You are welcome. I just looked at my phone. Hi. You are welcome to ask any questions or make any comments. I'm not blushing. This is the reflection off of my shirt in my microphone. Questions or comments? Just a heads up, Mercury will still be retrograde until the 25th of this month. And, there's still a shadow period of Mercury retrograde, as it kind of, like ebbs out of the retrograde period. There was a really cool, it was like a computer generated, animation of what Mercury is actually doing in the solar system. And then, like with Earth, is kind of like the vantage point, and the moon and the sun. And I'm sure you could very easily use technology, the Google, to look that up. But the planets each have their own. It looks like sacred geometry, their own shape and design that they make with their orbit. Is pretty amazing. And but you can see in like an animation like that, why it appears several times a year. It's usually once every quarter, that Mercury goes retrograde, of how it can appear for a few weeks that it is going in reverse. But it is not actually, it's not like the orbit is stopping going forward and then all of a sudden it just like halts and then goes backwards. But it's as the earth is, and this, I'm not going to be able to do this, right? Just look it up. But as the earth is here, the earth is, moving around the sun, and then Mercury is also moving, around the sun, and there's Venus and all the planets, right? And all of the orbits, as they're further out in the solar system, past earth or before earth, closer to the sun, the orbits, the planets are going to move faster than others, right? It's like you're running on track and you're on the inside lane, right? If you have a staggered start, then somebody's got an advantage there, right? But it's really cool to kind of see how we actually get that retrograde motion temporarily, or that the perception of such. And of course, as we know, Mercury is not the only planet that we experience going retrograde. We got through the Venus retrograde towards kind of the like late summer, midsummer last year. And that retrograde lasted quite a while. That happens about every 18 months. So anyway, I'm just yammering on here. But so if nobody has any questions or comments, that's totally fine. And I am going to pull some cards here in just a moment. I just have to think of a good question. What do we need to know? That's always a good one, but I kind of like to maybe be a little more specific sometimes. As you know, with Mercury retrograde, not a good time to start anything that wasn't started before Mercury went retrograde. Sometimes it's inevitable. I mean, if you had a shift in jobs or whatever, and that's just how it was, I'm not saying like just put everything on hold, until Mercury goes direct, but you are going to see more of the energy kind of, flowing forward and kind of supporting those endeavors, instead of it just like brick wall, brick wall. Okay, so we do have a question. And the question is, how can I live a more positive life and let the little things just roll off my back? All right. So meditation, meditation. So I like to use the analogy for this kind of question, but then also for other things, of a microscope and a telescope. So imagine that you had this apparatus that was able to zoom in and zoom out. And like a microscope, you would be able to zoom in and zoom in, just like all the way down to like, if it was an electron microscope, right? It would be all the way down to like the space between particles, right? And then if you had a telescope, and this was a very like advanced, far-reaching telescope, I mean, you could just look out and see, way out into space, right? And technology, I mean, we have both of those kinds of tools, right? But just for the metaphor, just envision that you had something that you could either zoom in all the way or you could zoom out all the way, right? And this is really a metaphor or an example of your perspective. And so, not to discount anything that any individual, whether it's you or someone or a group of people or whatever, not to minimize any challenges, any traumas, any hard life lessons, or just crap luck or anything like that, not to minimize any of that for the individual or a group of people that are experiencing that. But if you, instead of being in microscope mode, you zoomed out enough to have a different perspective, you would no longer even see that individual, okay, or yourself. You would not even see, a group of people on continents or on the planet. You might not even see our planet. You've just like, you're just reaching out so far, right? And so it is not to say that what you as an individual, if you're experiencing things that are negative, that are frustrating, that are causing you fear, upset, stress, anxiety, any of those things, that it's not significant to you or important to you, or that for people who know and care for you, don't feel bad for you, or hate it for you. But in the grand scheme of things, are we even, like, what are we? What is reality? What is, um, humans, because it keeps us like living and surviving and stuff. Like, we have this certain level of like importance and opinions of grandeur about ourselves or about being humans or the point of life and all of that. But when you look at the entirety of all that is, we're not even specks. We're not even visible because there's so much stuff, right? So sometimes, just having the perspective of, yes, you are important and individual, and the universe or source has somehow chosen to manifest a tiny little spark of itself into you, who you are. And it is a unique and beautiful experience and is so complex and complicated, even though it's just a tiny little spark of the universe. Yet it's just a tiny little spark, right? There's so much other stuff going on. And the cool thing is that if you can even just imagine or be 2% open to the idea that who you really are and what you are is the universe experiencing itself through this manifested human perspective for a blink moment in time, right? Because that's another thing, perspective, right? Like, what is a year in the grand scheme of all that is, right? Nothing. It's just like not even a blink. So anyway, I digress. But when you know that you really, what you are is the universe, that is like in uncountable perspectives, places, things, not things, stillness, the space in between the space, coexisting all at the same time. It's kind of like sometimes maybe something that feels really, really big as a human is just a teeny little blip in the universe. And it doesn't mean that what you're experiencing as a human, if you're not, if you're feeling like you're repeating patterns of negativity, or you can't get a break, or, whatever it is, or maybe you just have like a underlying sense of anxiety all the time and you don't know why, right? But it is a gift to have the human experience for however long we have that as a human, because it is a unique microcosm in which we get to experience things that are really not able to be experienced anywhere else in the cosmos. And so when we experience things that are negative and things that are challenging, and we do at least let ourselves feel and experience those things, like we're present with that, then we get the depth or the breadth of that experience, um, as fully as we can. And then, of course, when positive things happen, good, happy, expansive things happen, and we're present in that moment, then we get the height and the expansion of those experiences too. And sometimes it is within one lifetime that we kind of get the valley and the peak of the full circle experience of something, of a lesson, of a theme, of an emotion, or sometimes it is carried over, one lifetime or experience or parallel reality, all the options, right? Sometimes we have more of the challenges in one, and then we have more of the fun lessons in another, but then you kind of look at that as more of a full circle experience, right? And so I know that sounded like a tangent, kind of a little bit, as far as to answer the question, how do you live a more positive life and that the little things just roll off your back? Um, but the simple answer, and thank you for listening to me just give you the big preface to that. But the simple answer is to be present. Because a lot of negative thoughts, a lot of worry, depression, anything like that stems from your awareness not being anchored in the present moment. Anxiety is usually your energy kind of reaching out towards the future, which has not manifested yet, which is not, it might be the trajectory, the energy, you know, that the direction that we're kind of headed, right? But we still can kind of like maneuver. So there's that hasn't happened yet, but we're anxious about it because we don't know actually what is going to happen. Or maybe we feel that something is going to happen and we kind of anticipate, but again, it hasn't happened yet. So we're not there, but some of our energy is bleeding out into the future. And then of course, like depression, a lot of and I mean like being sad and nostalgic and forlorn and that kind of depression, I'm just going to put it under that umbrella, is your energy reaching towards the past for also a place that is not the now, it's not the moment, it's not reality, it's a place that you were at one time, but like you've moved on, you've moved forward in time and space, and you're here now, but your energy, your memories, there are connections to the past, and you can't actually visit that place either. So when we do things that help us be, feel very anchored and present in the moment, which it can be breathing, deep breathing, and it is like breathing first just like checking in, like, yes, you're breathing, but how am I breathing, right? And it is kind of trying to activate the deeper the belly breath, so where we breathe in nose or mouth, and then you push your belly out and you fill the air all the way down, not just into your lungs but through your diaphragm, and then all the way down into the belly to where the belly pushes out, so your full core is holding that breath. And then when you exhale, then the belly starts to move down first, and then the air pushes up over the diaphragm through the lungs, out the throat and the nose or the mouth. And taking some breaths like that. It could be 10 breaths. It could be a minute of breathing that way. But that will very much lower your blood pressure, your heart rate. It will calm you down almost immediately, which is amazing. But it also will help you be very present. You're just focusing on breathing, right? That's all you're having to focus on for that moment. Now, also because we are not only intelligent, thinking beings, but our thoughts then, relate to our emotions, our emotional self status and state. And we have an electromagnetic field, and we have an energy body and an auric body, and a spiritual body. We have all these bodies that are kind of coexisting and coinciding together in the physical, but like in and out and all the directions, right? So when we are present and just focusing on breathing, and that's all we're focusing on, I would say that it would be very difficult to really have any negative emotions about breathing. um, you're feeling your body calming down, right? And you're also just feeling a very natural rhythm, the ebb and the flow that we experience in the ocean and the moon phases and all the things, right? That breath, flowing in and out. And so it's very, very anchoring and very calming. So um, and yes, our minds wander. We've got the chatter. We've got external stimuli, all the things, right? That can just like take our attention and just start to, pull it out into all those directions. But just to focus back on the breath is very simple, as far as a remedy or a solution. Now, how do you add on to that, right? So, whenever you start like a meditation, whenever you are trying to calm yourself down, you start with focusing on the breath. And then you might also focus in on the physical body, how the physical body is being held, where you're holding tension or stress. Of course, your brain, pumping out all of these thoughts. Well, you can bless those thoughts, your brain, with gratitude, like, thank God, at least I'm thinking, I am having thoughts that I'm aware of. My brain is working. Maybe it's working overtime, but my brain's working. And so to kind of have a appreciation or gratitude for those thoughts instead of a frustration, like, oh, I'm supposed to be meditating. I'm just supposed to be focusing on my breath. And like, I'm having all these thoughts. The gratitude will help kind of ease, the emotional friction with that whole process. But and then to try to integrate some kind of daily, multiple times daily meditation practice. And then people like roll their eyes and they're like, well, that's dumb. I can't meditate. I don't have time. My brain won't turn off. Blah, 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 whatever. Well, it can be mindfulness and not like a Zen Buddhist meditation practice. Oh my God, my neck just popped. It always does that. Not always, but when I'm doing these energy updates, it's like something and then my neck just goes anyway. So but mindfulness, which is just being present in the moment, it's like you're sweeping your floor and you are just watching what you're doing. You're hearing the brush bristles, on the ground. You're feeling your body moving the broom handle. I mean, like all the things, like all the senses, and just like present with what you're doing, right? Noticing all the little details on the floor, right? Washing the dishes and feeling the wetness of the water, the temperature of the water, the foaminess of the bubbles, the smooth texture of the dishes, in the water, that you're washing off. These are very simple daily tasks, as like a clean human, right? But you can also be just very present, like whatever you're doing, being very, very anchored and present in the moment. That is a form of meditation because um, you're kind of naturally propelled through that motion, that moment, without being like this shell that's doing some stuff and then your brain's one place and then your emotions are another and all of that, right? You're like anchored as much as you can be into the moment. But of course, spending time outside, whether it's like working outside in your yard or your garden, or hey, David, thanks for saying hi. Or if it is, being like going on a walk or just sitting outside and on the back deck with the sun shining on your face and you're hearing the birds and feeling the breeze and all of that, those can all be moments of meditation, right? But it's like, you rob yourself of that present mindful experience if you are, as far as like being fully immersed in that moment, if you're like sitting outside enjoying the sunshine, but then you're like on your phone, or you're sitting there worrying about like, well, how did that conversation go? It didn't really go so well, like I'm kind of really mad, blah, blah, blah. But this was a conversation that you had like 2 weeks ago, So there is like, yes, like it's better, that you're like getting some sunshine and vitamin D and like, fresh air, it's better than like being in a cubicle, right? And breathing recycled air. But it's also like, how more present can you be? How more present can you be? And it's not a competition. It's just saying you're going to really get a lot out of that experience if you are present. Because like I said a few minutes ago, we have these different bodies, our energy body, our auric body, like energy body being like the actual electromagnetic field that our body is putting out because we have muscles and we have a heart that's beating and we have these electrical impulses, that our body actually like puts out, right? And then like the aura is really a translation of the electromagnetic field and your emotional body and your chakras. And it's kind of like how that energy kind of bleeds out or flows out into your auric field. And that's almost like, this is where I'm vibing at right now, and everybody has auras. And so it's kind of like one aura meets another aura. And it's kind of like reading the room, the vibe before you actually have a conversation. Okay. The emotions do kind of like bleed into the auric body. But there is like an emotional body as well. It's just kind of like your emotional state. And then of course you have your physical body, right? Your tangible body. And then there's like your spiritual body. It's like, and some people say there's like the soul and the spiritual body. And there's also words like etheric body. I mean, this is not an exact, agreed science, right? There are different terms for these bodies and different ways to kind of look at it. But you have many bodies, many versions of you that are all present in this reality. And sometimes those bodies can kind of get to where instead of, let's just say there's two bodies that are completely, oh my God, lined up, but sometimes the bodies kind of get like this, right? And then you've got like five, right? Or six. And so they get kind of out of whack. And one's kind of like really like the emotional body, right? You're like really pissed about something from like 2 months ago. And your emotional body's like way over here, stretching out. So the idea too is to get all of those bodies in complete alignment, being all anchored in the present moment. That is going to make you feel like you're very anchored in the present moment as well. And of course, meditation, just visualization, calling back your energy, that's all very, very helpful as well. Now, bridging that with like having more positive experiences, okay, to get back to the question, is that your vibration is going to attract, draw to, magnetize other people, other situations that resonate with that. And so it could be that your energy is kind of vibing high, and it is expanded and like big. Okay, so like your energy field can kind of like move out more than kind of shrink down. So if it's kind of large and expanded and a high vibration, then it is going to be more far reaching as far as attracting other, people, situations, scenarios that vibrate with that. Is going to be a strong energetic field. And it's going to also do something that is called entrainment, that is going to help bring up the energy of those around you in the room, because those energies are going to try to rise up and resonate with that. But you could also, or a person could also have a very like bass drum, like deep, it could be really calm and grounded energy, or it could be just like a really like saturated but like depressed energy too. And it could like bring it, whatever is the strongest energy in an area is kind of like what the other energies like try to find resonance with, to entrain with. So there is that. I hope that I've explained that. I mean, it's kind of a quick explanation, but hopefully I've explained that clearly, because this is all off the cuff, right? Just pulling like stuff out of my brain that, I know to be true, that I've worked with, I've talked about before. So the idea is to not just like think positive. Yeah, that helps. But it's just having your energy clear and strong in whatever kind of resonant frequency you're wanting to embody, and like what other things you're wanting to bring into your life, other people that you're wanting to be around, situations you want to have, opportunities that you want to experience, lessons you want to learn, blah blah blah. So if you're feeling like your energy is scattered, if it is, low frequency, things are upsetting you, you're fearful, all those lower vibrational energies, and you're like, well, how do I get out of that? Because it is like a trap. How do I get out of that and get to where I am in a higher vibrational state, more positive, then therefore I'm attracting more positive things instead of things that are just going to keep me, in the depths, right, of depression. Is, sometimes it is faking it till you make it. Sometimes it is, meditating and just, focusing on, gratitude, things that do bring you joy, things that you have experienced in the past that you can kind of relate to try to kind of embody and feel in your present moment. Those can be helpful. Sometimes it's just like, being out in nature, which is very, very helpful. Looking at things that bring you joy, like art, something that's beautiful, puppies playing, anything like that, that can kind of like start to kind of lift you up, out of that more negative or dense state. So those are maybe some, helpful, simple ideas. But I think that really speaking to like, how do you let the little things roll off your back is, again, microscope, telescope perspective. Is this something that needs your full on attention in this moment? And do you need to sit with it for a moment and see how you feel about this? How, you feel affected by it, how your energy feels really sitting with this thing in this moment. Acknowledge it, sit with it, even if it seems inconsequential, but for some reason it's not rolling off your back, right? But then take a few breaths with that, and then maybe see in 10 seconds, like, okay, now how do I feel? Now, when I think about this thing that I was having trouble like letting go of, it was still kind of ruminating and bothering me. Do I still feel the exact same way about it that I felt 10 seconds ago now that I've acknowledged it and I've just really seen it for what it is? And it could be like, you know what? I'm actually more pissed. I'm more upset, right? Or it could be like, actually a little bit, now that I've sat with it and acknowledged it, I'm feeling a little bit of lifting. I actually feel a little different. It's not even better necessarily at this, 10 seconds in, but it might be different. And so when we give ourselves just that break to acknowledge how we feel and to sit with something, then we can process that emotion and that experience much more efficiently. I don't even want to say swiftly, but usually that is part of it, but it is efficiently and effectively. And then we're not just like carrying it around on our shoulders or like, it's nagging at us and somewhere in the recesses of our brain, but then we're just like, okay, yeah, on to the next thing. We process it, then we're able just to kind of go, okay, cool, I get it, or whatever, or it makes no sense. So I'm not going to worry about it anymore. And seriously, and then I'm going to let it go. And the more that you allow yourself to be present with anything, to really feel something, to say, and it doesn't have to be that everything's a lesson, but it could be, why did this come into my life? Why did I experience it? Why did it come across my radar? Right. Um, but the more that you allow yourself to sit with things, just for a few seconds, even some things take longer, then it's like you clear it out, right? And it's not an accumulation of stuff. And then as other things that vibe with that same stuff that you're like, well, I had to sit with it, I had to acknowledge it, I had to process it, the energy of those things, when those cross your path, because the universe is chaos. There's all kinds of crap that can cross your path that really don't have anything to do with you. But when those other things show up, you're like, the last time I gave myself a bit of a chance of reflection, like, why did that happen? Or why is this bothering me? Or whatever, this is the conclusion I came to. This is how easily I was able to go, hold on, this is not really, something that I want to take precious time to carry around for who knows how long, or, process, right? So we can go, yeah, that's about the same stuff. So I've already kind of learned that I don't really need to be distracted with that. I can just be kind of like move around it. I can avert, my attention, my path, whatever, to where I'm not even going to be really affected by that. You're going to see it coming. And you're like, yeah, that's not what I'm doing. I'm going to shift my course just a little bit and kind of end up over here. So, because we're amazingly intelligent. That's what our brain does, is it like calculates stuff and it stores all these memories, and it's for future reference, right? It's a lot of it is for future reference. So use that amazing brain of yours to be able to accept what you have already experienced and what you are experiencing now and how it feels in your energy field and your awareness. So that in the future, if this is like, yes, that was an experience, but I don't necessarily want to do that anymore, or I'd like to do something different, then you can even just avoid it altogether. Because also, like I said, your energy, your vibration is not 100%, but is attracting other things that resonate with that. But a little bit of chaos here and there, because that's also in the universe. It happens. It's not always, bad stuff or things that are negative that you're experiencing or that come across in your awareness are because you put it out there, right? Sometimes it just is. So not everything's predestined. Most stuff isn't really predestined, but you do have a say and free will in kind of where you're putting your energy and what your energy is. Okay. That was a very long explanation, and I apologize. Okay, so I am going to pull just a couple of cards here. Almost all of my decks are at the shop because I didn't bring them home. So I do have the Moonology Oracle deck again here. I just need to have duplicates of stuff, I guess, and have like backup stuff here and at the store, but that seems a little excessive. I'm going to move this back a little bit so I have some room. So yeah, I'm just going to ask, what do we need to know? Collectively, what do we need to know? and individuals that are watching this, that felt called to be here either on the live or to watch the recording, what is some very helpful information to help us navigate this next phase, this next chapter, this next book, whatever it is that is coming in, because I feel like there are some shifts and changes coming in for sure. And it will come in waves, right? But yeah, how do we prepare? What do we need to know? Okay. I don't know when I do that, when I kind of like straighten up the card pile, if it's like super loud, it sounds kind of loud to me. I hope it's not like killing your ears. So, okay. So I'll do this. I'm not like, okay. So I'll split the deck one more time and pick one. Oh, nice. Relevant. New moon in Aries. What do we just have? Duh. New moon in Aries. Okay, so we just had that. Thank you for magical card spirits for acknowledging the energy that we just came through. Cool. And I will kind of pull a bit of a intuitive meaning with this card, of course, too. But I really feel like that's more confirmation. Like, yes, this is the chapter in which we are speaking of. And then we have a new moon in Sagittarius. Okay, more fire energy. Aries is fire. Sagittarius is also fire. This is like take action. I can already tell you. And then we have believe in the impossible. Oh, I don't know if I said luck is on your side. Anyway, that's new. I didn't say that. I'll go over that in a second. These all have kind of like mantras or statements. And then we have the astrological information. This is a blue moon. It says believe in the impossible. I'm always like backwards with the cards. I'll pull one more. And a new moon, a new start is coming. Okay, so let me pull this all together for you. Okay, so like I said, new moon in Aries. The first card, Aries is a fire sign. Okay, new moon in Sagittarius. Sagittarius is another fire sign. This says it's time to take action. This says luck is on your side. Okay, new moon, and we have a blue moon, which typically blue moon is like you hear like once in a blue moon. There are a couple different calculations that basically a blue moon is where there is an extra like 2 full moons in a month. Usually like a calendar month, which is kind of dumb because there's a lunar calendar, solar calendar, whatever. But it's basically like kind of extra. It's like an extra, at full moon in that month. So it's kind of like an auspicious time, right? And this says believe in the impossible. Okay. And obviously we know we do have blue moons. It's not an impossibility. It's just kind of rare. And then we have new moon again, and this is a new start is coming. Okay. So this is the thing is that, yes, different people, depending on their astrological makeup or your life or whatever, everybody's going to have a different way of kind of processing the energies that are being ushered out, but then also that are coming in, right? We're not like little cookie cutters of each other. But the general idea, and in some people's lives, it could be kind of like, sim simpler, less complicated things. And then other people's lives, it could be like groundbreaking, life changing too. Okay. But collectively speaking, as all of the humans that are on the planet right now, there are big shifts and changes happening, which I've mentioned, right? And I'm not like Meleah knows everything. I'm just saying that's what it feels like. And I'm not the only person who's saying that. And I'm sure you all are feeling that, right? But it is time to, oh my God, this is a bow and arrow, right? And this is like, if anybody has ever shot a bow and an arrow, you kind of got to aim it to make the arrow like go where you want it to go. Okay. You also have to pull back the string on the bow. And a lot of it is like, if you hesitate, if you get get distracted for a second or whatever, that tiny little degree of change can make that arrow go somewhere completely differently than you wanted it to go, or you let the string go too soon and everything's like all wonky, right? There is this precise exact thing and it feels very intuitive. And you need to pull the string back all the way to give the arrow enough inertia to get where you want it to go. You're looking down the arrow. I don't know. Have you guys ever shot a bow and arrow? Have you ever done archery before, right? So anyway, um, you need to be you need to decide now. And it's not like the last decision you're ever going to make in your life, but it would be very good to decide where you're aiming, where you're going, because this is like the fresh start of a new chapter. And it is like maximize this energy, this potential that will very soon become inertia, forward motion, and it's going to pick up speed. Decide what your focus is, what your intention is. And it doesn't mean that you have to, I'm writing my novel now, or I'm changing jobs, or I'm starting a baby goat farm, or like whatever. It doesn't have to be something like a really, really big project. It could just be like, I embody peace, something simple that you're going to like embody that energy and do or not do things that help you embody that energy for this next chapter. That is your main focus. That is the measuring stick in which everything else is compared to for that energetic imprint or trajectory that you are setting. But it could be something more ambitious, right? And a lot of it is kind of like get your shit together. It's really the energy that I feel that like we're coming into, that we're being called to, like, now is the time to do either what you came here to do as a human, or something that you're like, yeah, I kind of didn't want to do that, but I'm putting it off, or yeah, I need to do that maintenance inventory, and it metaphorically or literally, of your things, your supplies, whatever it is. But it's just like, yeah, it's really time to do that now. It's like, don't wait, because you want to have that energy already started, and that intention set now, because there's going to be a lot going on. There's going to be a lot going on, and you want to be kind of like sure, like, yeah, well, I've already started going on my path. And you need to be familiar with that. You need to be sure about that. And you also, if you're on your path and then you're like, okay, but there is kind of this thing coming up that I'm going to have to make some adjustments to this goal that I've set, or these intentions that I've set, or whatever. Well, the adjustment might be like taking a little detour to get back on track, because you got to deal with this, whatever that has come across your path, chaos or not. But if you're already like, yes, I'm committed, this is the path that I'm on, those little detours or diversions, it's just like, okay, cool. This is getting me to where I need to go. I'm not just like sitting on the path blocked, right? And that's going to keep you motivated and keep you going. And then sometimes it is, this thing has come across my path, and I'm visualizing this. I'm seeing this in my head. I don't know how you all are hearing this or seeing this, but you're on your path. Let's just say a big boulder, just like, and there's no detour that you see. Like, there's not just like a quick little like path that's like, let me just kind of circle around here and then I could get back on the path I was on. Okay. Sometimes it's like the boulder is important. The boulder is there. Maybe it's saving you from something, down that path that you thought, you were going, and it was a great idea, or was what you wanted to experience. You're like, well, holy heck, there's this other path here that I didn't even know existed. And s- suddenly I realized that actually the path that I was on, it really ends here. And then now I need to change directions. And this is where I'm going, but you're still motivated to do that. You're not just sitting there crying, holding onto the boulder and like, well, this is the end. This is it. My plan is ruined. I don't have any motivation or desire to keep going. Right. I mean, that's a choice too, but I don't want to get into that. So, yes, start now, get that momentum going, get the excitement going, and also believe in the impossible. This is saying, like, don't aim freaking low. This is like, aim big. Why did you come here? Why are you a human? What did you as your soul say, hey, so we're gonna like experience this lifetime, we're gonna like meet these people, or like have these experiences, and it's gonna be maybe awful and hard sometimes, but like really, really awesome too, because I'm going to get the richness and the fullness of this experience. So, like dig into like really why you're here. And like so many people, when they think of life purpose, they think of, it could be like you might think of your career or some kind of like spiritual goal, like, well, I'm supposed to, I don't know, learn this lesson and I just repeat this pattern over and over so I get a really good experience of it. And sometimes, I mean, that's part of like living in the human experience, but life purpose is really much more simple than we think it is. We want to give it all of these different um uh conditions like attached to it. It could be like the main purpose of your life in this human incarnation was to experience love. It could be to experience peace. It could be to experience stillness. It could be to experience freedom. Okay? And those are like it's like the essence of what you came here to experience. And so if you just say, okay, I came here to experience like, love in its fullness and its completeness, then like focus on that. That is your trajectory. That is your intention. And then things that align with love, 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 things that align with that come in all kinds of shapes and forms and facets and ways for you to experience that in more fullness. And it's probably even better than you can imagine. It is probably more amazing, more full of love because you haven't experienced it yet. Or you thought you experienced it and you're like, holy crap, this is like not even just another level. This is like a whole new ballgame, right? So aim high, believe in the impossible. We get in our own way. We keep ourselves small and keep ourselves safe by aiming low. And I don't really feel like it's the time for that. Okay. Get in alignment with your life purpose and think of the life purpose as the essence, the feeling, the emotion, the essence of why are you here? Why are you here? And again, rounding out with a new start is coming, new moon, new moon, except for the blue moon, but whatever. We have a lot of new moon energy, and this is a fresh start. This is a fresh start. And so some of you may be feeling pulled to release, let go, physical, tangible things, situations, people, jobs, whatever. Sometimes these things, people, places, or things, so let's just say, are being removed from your life without you choosing, without you putting that into motion. You're like, I just lost my job, or whatever. So that may seem like a loss. That may seem like um, a big boulder in the path. It may feel like a major inconvenience, but I feel that given a little bit of time and a little bit of hindsight, you're going to go, oh my gosh, thank goodness that actual obstacle was removed, where all of my time and energy was going. Thank goodness I was released from that so that I could get back on my path that I came here to experience. So even if you are experiencing loss or sadness or inconvenience or unknowns and things like that, that is a little bit of like that new moon, that emptiness, that kind of pause and giving you the space to breathe in between the ending of the old chapter and the beginning of this new energy. So just hang with it for a little bit and just see if you can let yourself be a little bit excited about what is coming, down the pipeline, or kind of where you're traveling on this new intention trajectory. Even if you have no idea what it is, because it's going to be different. And if you're able to accept that you are deserving to experience what you really came here to experience, it's going to be better than you can even imagine. I promise. I promise. Okay. 8:04. It is 8:04. I've been talking for over an hour. It didn't feel like an hour, but it was. And I'm going to end it. I'm going to stop here unless anybody else has questions or comments. And I will tell you that I feel a lot better after doing this energy update. I was rushing around trying to get stuff done, and I was not, even for a moment, I was like, I just need to cancel the energy update tonight. And I'm glad I didn't. So thank you for joining me here and for watching. And I hope you all have a good rest of your week. And I will see you next Wednesday at 7 o'clock. Thank you very much.